So we work at Clear Channel Outdoor, which is one of the largest outdoor advertising companies in the world. And one of the cool things about outdoor advertising is that it occupies some of the most iconic locations in the world. So anybody know where this is? Beulah? Anyone? Anyone shout out? Should be an easy one. A lot of people who live here. Madrid, correct. Muy bien. This one, anyone? Paris, correct, absolutely. This one. I think it's Milan, but it might be Rome, so don't quote me on that one. And then finally, UK. Can anyone guess where it is? Anyone know where it is? Chiswick Towers, so quite close to here. So we know that out of home offers great locations. We also know that it offers one of the largest creative canvases in advertising. These things are absolutely huge. You have enormous space in which to get your message across. We also know that it offers mass reach. So hundreds of thousands of people go past these locations every day, and it offers advertisers a great opportunity to reach a large number of people in a very visually appealing way. But unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last 10 years, data has absolutely revolutionized how advertising is planned and bought. So in this day and age, any marketing budget needs to have measurable effects, needs to be targeted, we need to demonstrate that we're doing it efficiently. And so can out-of-home take advantage of some of this data? And it was that thought that led us to the development of a tool which we call Radar. And what Radar does is uses mobile location data to identify devices that have been within the vicinity of outdoor ads. And the goal of doing that is to bridge the gap between the physical world where our ads live and where our audience are, and the digital world where all of the really interesting insights that have been so transformative in the advertising space live. And so by combining those two things, we can now start to layer in behavioral data about those people that we've seen in the vicinity of our outdoor locations. So the methodology is done at the device level. So for each of our locations, we have a viewing field, and what we're looking to do is see which devices have we observed within that viewing field. So we obviously don't know, did they look up at that exact moment? We can't get inside somebody's head, but we do know that they were within that vicinity and when they were there based on the device ID. And we can then match that device ID to other online data points about that. So things like other places they've been to, websites they've been to, things they've purchased, and I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. And then by aggregating those data points together, we can generate a unique profile based on the behaviors of the people who observe every single one of our outdoor locations. So to get that data, we use data from software developer kits in mobile apps. We require a minimum signal density of 100 locations per user per day, so it's a very dense set of data that allows us to not just understand that that individual has been in the vicinity of our ad, but all of the other places they've been as well. And we look to have a minimum population coverage of 10% of the population, which is then obviously normalized to make sure that it matches to the demographic norms of that region. So we collect the data from the mobile apps. That's how we handle the permissions. Anybody who's thinking about GDPR, obviously that's very front of mind for us. That data is then collected via the SDK, and then it's aggregated together to create these group-level insights. So we don't actually, although it's collected at the individual level, we don't subsequently then generate any individual data. It's based on groupings. And there's a number of benefits of this approach for out-of-home. The first of them is that it gives a really up-to-date picture of what's happening right now. So, sorry for mentioning COVID, but as you can imagine, it was a difficult time for advertising, especially outdoor advertising. Everyone saw all these pictures of empty streets with nobody there, and we had a real existential challenge of proving what people were doing and were they actually, was it even worth buying an outdoor ad because everyone's at home. Well, actually, the answer is yes, but you buy in a different way. So we all saw that city centres saw dramatic drops in their populations. We saw the West End of London, for example, went down to 40% of its normal volume. But we also saw a corresponding increase in volumes of people in the outskirts. So people were still going out, but they were just going out in different ways. And actually, today, with the new kind of hybrid working week, we're seeing that the day-to-week pattern is looking very different based on the new working trends. And so it gives us an up-to-the-minute picture. We update the data every week, so we can always tell our advertisers exactly what's going on right now. It's based on a large sample size, so about 10% of the population in the countries that we are live in. And because we've got access to all of this online data, we can use about 500 different behavioral dimensions for very precise planning. And of course, all of those data points are behavioral. So they're based on what those people actually did, not based on surveys, which has traditionally been one of the mainstays of mediums like outdoor. And then here's a sample of some of the data sets that we can derive from that. So we can always get the home location of a device. It's basically where it goes most often. And by matching that to census data, you can start to pull in all sorts of interesting data points about the demographics. Brand affinity and purchase patterns, again, by matching via the home location to aggregated credit card data. At the user level, we can also look at websites they've been to and apps they have installed on their phones. That gives a really rich data point. And then, of course, other places that they've visited, so other physical places they've visited, as well as having been exposed to a particular out-of-home location. And what this means for out-of-home is it kind of changes a little bit of the dichotomy that we've typically seen between direct channels like online, which are really good at reaching one person with a high degree of precision. You've probably all experienced a shopping cart abandoned following you all around the internet. Online's very good for that. Out-of-home has typically been very good at broadcast, so reaching a large number of people with a mass message. And radar actually allows us to sit somewhere in between that. We're still a broadcast medium. We're not trying to do Minority Report and target one person with a billboard. That would be terrifying and really inefficient. But what we are trying to do is help our advertisers be more targeted. So use what makes out-of-home great, the fact that it's a broadcast medium, but then use data to be more targeted and more refined and more efficient in what you do. So half the battle was getting the data and analyzing it, but actually what we realized is that the other really important piece was putting the data in the hands of the people who actually plan and buy campaigns. And it was that led us to develop a tool called Radar View in conjunction with Carto, which is a visualization dashboard. And what this allows us to do is take all of that really rich data about the audiences that we are able to see exposed to our inventory, and allows campaign planners to use that to put together an optimal plan. So I'm going to hand you over to Edie, who is going to talk you through a real-life example of how the tool's been used.
Hi guys, so I'm making the big risk of doing a live demo in front of a room full of people. So I'm a senior planner at Clear Channel, so I am basically in charge of the tool within my team, and I'm going to take you through an example campaign that we've run, which originally came to us wanting to use just proximity data, and after some conversations we convinced them that location data and radar was the best way to go. So this client was for a well-known sports watch. I can't choose to say who it is, but make your own decisions. So I'm going to take you through different kind of conversations we had and how we came up with the campaign. So as you can see, the interface is very user-friendly, which is great when we're showing clients as well, because they can understand it very easily. And it's all of our inventory across the UK, across every single format. And the great thing about that is as well that we have inventory on this tool, which we had previously not on other tools. So for example, our socialite screens, which are in pubs, we've never been able to get audience data for them, and now we have the opportunity to do that. And the great thing about data radar as well, as Andy said, is it's near real-time data. So we can locate trends as they come up. And that data is stored historically, so we can look at trends year on year. So for myself as a campaign planner, when we're looking at cultural moments such as Christmas, Black Friday, a bank holiday, anything like that, we can locate what the trends were last year and see how we can use that for our planning this year. So this is about a month behind because it's near real time. We can't have it as it goes on. So I'm just going to use week 13, which is week 13 of this year, use an example. So like I said, the campaign I'm showing you for is for a sports watch. And the original brief was wanting to have proximity to gyms, which pre-COVID would have been a fantastic way to target that kind of audience. But if we're being honest, post-COVID, consumer habits and journeys are completely different, and we need to be at the forefront of that. We need to understand that. More people are working out at home, they're doing running, they're doing different things, and they still want the product, and they also may be purchasing it different ways. They might not be going to stores, they might be doing more things online. So how can we use location data to still target those people? So if we go on to our audience, and I literally just type in fitness, I can look at different attributes using this data to kind of target the people and see how our clear channel panels are best to target those people. So fitness enthusiasts would be a fantastic one for your general gym goers, but I have things like outdoor runners and home fitness, which we wouldn't be able to target before just using proximity data. And as I said, it's near time, so we can look at this depending on the time of year. So if we wanted to look at summer, people who are running outdoors in summer, I can look at a week from last summer and use that data to kind of give it a bit more backing. So as I tick those, just apply, press update. This now is looking to see all of our panels. We have quite a lot because this is across our entire inventory, that people who are fitness enthusiasts and outdoor runners are more likely to see. And if I look more, I can even choose over-indexing. So the higher the index, the more likely someone who is really into fitness and outdoor is like to see it. And this is looked at apps and web browsing. So just do it 105 as a good small base to make sure I still have panels. And it will load. So now we can see all the different types of panels. And if I zoom in further, we can look at where these panels are spread, and I can even get information on specific panels. So for this one on Ninian Way, I can see the weekly impressions, so the total amount of times this panel is seen per week, and then make a decision based on that if I think this is right for the campaign. We can also add demographic data if we want to make it even more targeted. And this comes down to client preference. What is their ad doing? Who are they trying to target? And what is their end goal of the campaign? It might not just be about fitness fanatics. They might want to target students. They might want to target people who are at home trying to do something with their day, maybe be retired, unemployed, or anything in between. And that's where radar is really important, because we aren't just looking at your general categories of people who enjoy fitness and proximity. We're looking at what these people do on the day-to-day that might help build a campaign and show consumer journeys. And we have all different types of ways of doing this. So if you look at demographics, we can do your very basic things of age and gender, which are also, we have Nielsen DAR validated. We also have education, and things like that to kind of bring in a full picture of who our consumers are. Furthermore, we can put this just into our products specifically. So if our client only wanted to add show live, absolutely no problem, easy to whittle down and create a full-blown plan. And the great thing about radar is we're not saying this is going to completely replace out-of-home planning and that we can't do a national SKU. As Andy said, we're a one-to-many medium, so reach and broadcast is important to our clients. But using location data, we can combine those together to have a national high-reaching campaign, as well as highly targeted, and improve the effectiveness of out-of-home. And as you can see, and as my job shows, this has really been taken up by our clients. And this specific client has come back and booked using data 3 more times because they so much appreciated the ideas around just not including proximity. And we can add those layers on. We're not replacing proximity. It's still something that's important within location planning and media planning in general. But by adding these extra layers, we can now target consumers on their day-to-day journeys where they might not be in proximity to a store or a gym, and make your out-of-home campaign as effective as possible. Thank you very much for listening, and let us know if you have any questions.
Any questions in the audience? I can see we've got one lady in the middle there. If whoever's got the mic can run. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you for that. So you were speaking about the kind of viewing field similar to how the industry currency works with cone of visibility and everything. Do you have a way of actually knowing if people are facing the panels or if they're actually even on the same level as a panel or whether they're at altitude in building? Can you account for that within radar, or can you not get close to the currency in that way?
Yeah, it's not going to tell you the orientation. There's too many other factors that would influence that. So we do use a sort of standard cone of viewing. The one exception to that, so the problem with GPS data is that there's no z-axis, so we don't necessarily know the height of them. We have experimented, so we have this product as well in Sweden, where we also have inventory on the Stockholm Metro. And one of the problems is Sweden is an extremely well integrated city. So you could be at one GPS location, one lat long, and you could be standing on the main square, or you could be 3 floors below on the platform of the subway. And so what we do is we look at the origin of that trip, and then we can see the time it took them, and so we can link it back to a different route by doing that.
Thank you.
Brilliant demo. Do you use that tool in consultation with your clients, or do you just give them free access to it to experiment and?
So it's more a conversation with the clients, so they don't have specific access to the tool, but if I'm in a meeting with them, I will show the different things. Or, so my job generally, I don't tend to be client-facing, so I'll have a conversation with our agency team and show them all the different things they can do. So sometimes the client specifically requests it, and sometimes it's me pushing it and saying that their campaign can be better if we include a little data. It's really like a client-by-client basis. But usually they're quite open to changing it because out-of-home has the opportunity to use a lot more data, and it's a really great medium to do it, but it's just getting people on board to understand that this new data is the way forward.
Okay, because you could potentially cut out the middleman and just let them make those decisions themselves.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't have a job, so I'm going to keep it.
Good answer, yeah.
I think there's probably a journey that takes place with tools like this where you maybe move from supported access, so moving from a point where all of the knowledge about the best locations is in the heads of the campaign planners, and believe me, the knowledge is incredible, to then being able to use a tool and walk a client through, to then maybe actually encouraging people to self-serve and start to use that. And I think we've seen similar journeys with a lot of e-commerce. You know, we used to say people are never going to buy luxury goods online because they need to feel it and it needs to feel premium. And then they said people are never going to buy groceries because they need to be able to smell the fruit and stuff. And I think with each of those journeys, there has been a process of educating people on how to do that. And it's going to take time. And I think there'll definitely still be jobs for people who are experts in it.
Have we got another question over here? Sorry, it's right the other side.
Hi, how has this affected the price position of the inventory you have? So when you look at the estate, has it changed that dynamic for you?
Again, it really depends on the campaign. I wouldn't say there's been a massive increase in inventory pricing because of it. I think it, again, comes to a campaign-by-campaign basis of how much extra planning is there on top of a national campaign. There is no radar premium on any of our tools or any of our campaigns. It's more down to the trading team and the client to kind of hash out those details, but there is no specific increase due to location data. It's more how we can utilize our inventory in the best way possible while still delivering a national campaign.
And in some ways, we've actually seen that a tool like this helps spread the demand a bit more evenly. So there's certain high-profile sites, like some of the ones I shared with you, which everybody wants. And obviously, they command a premium because they are really iconic sites, but there's thousands of them. And actually, if you've got quite a specific target audience and you've got data that tells you there's a high concentration of them at that location, it's a no-brainer to add that to your plan. So in some ways, as Edie says, we don't charge for use of it. Our business is selling out of home. And so we've seen that it can be used to encourage people to consider locations they might not have thought of, using the data to support that decision.
Hi. This is maybe a little bit of like forward thing. Oh, here it is. So have you guys thought about dynamically changing the content based on what is happening on the locations? Like if there's bad weather, could the campaigns be dynamic depending on the conditions where this is happening. I'm just thinking that I could see, like very effective type of campaigns if you were adapting to it's very crowded, it's very hot, it's raining. Is that happening already? This real time of changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I didn't talk about today is our programmatic sales channel. So you can actually, believe it or not, you can now buy a billboard with a click in the same way that you would buy a banner ad on a website. Obviously only applies to the digital inventory, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of interest around that. Weather's always a good one, pollen count, pollution. We've had some stores who've used sales data to actually heavy up their campaign in certain areas based on what are the top selling products. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting things that you can do, and really digitization of the assets is kind of fueling that, but having data that then supports intelligent use of it is another really big component, yeah.
I think time for one last question, otherwise we're going to get a bit behind.
My question piggyback on his question in that so you're looking at the spatial clusters and coverage, do you also take into account things like temporal, as in, do you see certain clusters during certain seasons of the year? Can you take advantage of that?
Yes, so because certain seasons of the year, obviously we see different impacts, different people around. So as the data is updated each month, we'll see a change in which panels would make, say, for example, over-indexing. So an example I always like to use is, so we have an audience segment for video gamers, and if you look at just general sales data, you know that video gaming, people who buy video games, it's more common in the December time. So if I was to run a radar campaign in May as opposed to November just on video gamers, the panels and the number of panels would be completely different. So the great thing about radar, which is what we try and always push forward to our clients, is that when planning, it's good to plan for a time period or the general idea of an audience you want to have, so we can make sure that the panels we are using are most effective and they target the people you want to target at the right time of the year.
I think we've probably only scratched the surface of it really, but using time as a dimension for building these behavioral segments. So as Edie says, obviously, it's really interesting to know when those behaviors are taking place. Another example that we've done is segment out the difference between people who visit McDonald's in the morning for breakfast versus people who visit in the evening. There's probably a very different profile. Something we haven't done that I would really like to start doing is linking the data to sort of event data. So if you think about somewhere like Madison Square Gardens in New York, right? The Knicks play there, the Rangers play there, and they have concerts there. So all of those are going to have really different audiences, and by overlaying the temporal dimension, you could potentially segment them out as well. We haven't really done it mostly due to sort of availability of data, but it's definitely something of great interest, yeah.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.